I have a different view. I'd like to congratulate Democrats for ridding yourselves of this untalented mediocrity. I mean, this is the most self-aggrandizing liar that has ever held this job.
So you think she's doing this to launder herself?
So congratulations for getting rid of this, but Democrats deserve everything they're getting here for putting her in that job in the first place.
So I will say,
that's Republican Scott Jennings absolutely nuking former press secretary and DEI version of Jake Tapper, Karine Jean-Pierre, for announcing a new tell-all book exposing a scandal she directly participated in. Welcome to Nerk News, I'm Nerkish, and it looks like Karine Jean-Pierre's rebrand tour is already crashing and burning. Because when you spend 4 years lying for a collapsing White House, you don't get to pretend you're an independent voice of reason. You know, the only thing more shameless than her book is how the establishment media is pretending that she still might have a shred of credibility left. Here's Scott Jennings laying it out for a panel of political hacks on CNN.
The White House press secretary is a sacred position, and she stood up there for years and lied through her teeth to the American people.
my friend, she's not the first.
She is the literal worst White House press secretary in my lifetime. And what she did in the last year and a half of the Biden administration, cheap fakes, the entire cover-up around the president's mental faculties, she was in the center of it.
The fact that it seems like she was in the White House for her own personal gain and not to service the American people.
I agree with you.
And part of that is Alex Thompson has some reporting that she had a publicist working for her pro bono to lift up her profile.
You know, Jennings is right. Being White House press secretary is supposed to be an honor, not a partisan hack job. But KJP used that podium to lie, deflect, and mock anyone who dared point out what we all could see with our own eyes. That Joe Biden was declining, the administration was broken, and the American people were being gaslit daily. I mean, she even laughed at Don Lemon when he asked if Biden had the stamina for another term. And let's not forget how routinely she mocked Fox reporters for asking legitimate questions. Yet now we're supposed to believe that she was quietly concerned all along. Call me crazy, but I don't think that's gonna fly. Here's Jennings dismantling that illusion once and for all.
But I want to play for you what she said. This is in February 26th at the IOP about how she interpreted the push to get Biden out of the race after that debate.
It was a firing squad, and I had never seen anything like it before. I'd never seen a party do that in the way that they did. And it was hurtful and sad to see that happening. A firing squad around a person who I believe was a true patriot, a person who I believe did everything that he can for this country.
So if you're looking for her to throw Biden under the bus, I don't think this book is going to be that.
I agree with you. I don't think she will, although I would argue that it's pretty disloyal to leave the political party that, you know, gave you your biggest career shot that you've ever had. But I tend to agree with you. I mean, I think the things we've learned in the last 2 years is that the two least credible sources of information in this world are the Gaza Health Ministry and Karine Jean-Pierre. And when she puts this book out, every single person who reads it, reviews it, or discusses it needs to remember that virtually everything she said about what was going on behind the scenes in the White House was an outright lie. And so when she puts a book out, I think we ought to treat it from a source that has a proven track record of lying from the podium of the White House to the American people.
Well, we will find out what she saw or didn't see in the White House and what her experience is. Its book is going to be out in a few months, so we'll be talking about it.
I mean, this is what happens when the Democrat machine starts falling apart. Dozens of rats flee the ship. It's like Jennings pointed out, there's no loyalty or honor among thieves, especially liberal ones. KJP is just the latest in a long line of people on the left trying to launder their images now that the party's collapsing under the weight of its own lies. Which is somehow worse than them just going down with the ship, because it shows that they'll serve the narrative right up until it costs them personally, then they'll stab each other in the back and pretend they were outsiders all along. But voters aren't buying it. KJP spent years pushing propaganda and violating the Hatch Act, and now she has the audacity to pretend to care about sharing the truth. Here's Fox's Jackie Heinrich and Peter Doocy reacting to the absurdity of her releasing this new book.
And I know we're going to talk about this next hour, but the thing about this book is that she, towards the end, before Biden dropped out, after Biden dropped out, she would say that legitimate questions were misinformation. And I told her once, you can't just call something that you don't like misinformation. And so I don't know how she is going to square being the public face of saying things that we now know were not true about the president and about policies. I don't know how she's now going to come out and say, you know what, just because I swore on camera that things were okay. Actually, here's what was really going on.
I just think it's interesting that she's saying she wants to, move away from the partisanship of things, because I remember when Karine Jean-Pierre suggested that all the videos of Joe Biden at his worst were cheap fakes and deep fakes and misinformation, when they were in fact the video that we as a press corps collected, on site, certainly not the product of AI. And she painted questions about him in those videos as partisan, bad faith questions. So, for her now to suggest that it's time to move away from the partisanship of this White House and take a real step back from that, I, would be curious to know who she's going to paint as the chief messenger of that, when she was the face of all of that when we were in there.
Yeah, very interesting point.
And, Heinrich and Ducey know firsthand how full of it KJP is. These are reporters who sparred with her week after week, getting stonewalled, gaslit, and insulted for doing their jobs. I mean, she fed that press room binder after binder of talking points while accusing others of spreading disinformation, and now she's trying to sell a redemption arc. She wasn't just a bad press secretary, she was a dishonest, arrogant mouthpiece for a regime that failed. And everyone who remembers her briefings knows it. But let me know what you think. Is Karine Jean-Pierre the worst press secretary in modern history? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. That stuff really does help us out. Until then, this has been Nerk News. Thanks for watching. Bye.